Hello, this is Raziel Cohen with ndftraining.com, and today we're going to be speaking about the KP15 lower. Now, when it comes to innovation in regards to the AR-15 platform, it's super rare these days to find something that you'd be like, wow, that was really incredible and that was very innovative. There's a lot of the same things going around in the market, and it's not always going to be something incredible. But when it came to the KP15 lower, there was definitely going to be a lot of controversy associated with it because it's really one of the first fully monolithic lower receivers on the market that's actually able to hold up to quality standards. Now, what I mean by that is that there's definitely a stigma in the AR-15 world that the lower receiver should not be made out of polymer because over the years, there have been a lot of tests and different people trying out, and there's definitely been a lot of weak points on the lower receiver, and they've pretty much determined it to be unreliable and unrealistic, and a lot of people kind of stopped doing that. KP15, KE Arms, came together and they put together this monolithic lower receiver, and there's a lot of different things that they did to it that actually make it much more durable than whatever else is available on the market right now. So specifically, the keyword being monolithic, where the entire lower receiver is one solid piece. So the area where the magazine well is, the grip, the actual buttstock is all connected as one piece, and they use a method of vibration molding to get the polymer pieces together to make it a very, very strong lower receiver. Now, a lot of people have done tests with running it over cars and trying to do push-ups with it, and it held up to the standard. Now, based on what I've seen, and I've had polymer lower receivers in the past before, this is something that's going to be significantly more strong when it comes to actual use. Now, there are a few pros and cons when it comes to using this lower receiver that you're going to definitely want to take into account. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from the back of the gun and move our way up the lower receiver and kind of go through some of the different talking points that are worth considering. So starting with the back of the lower receiver, there are different options and different variations of this lower receiver you're able to get. The one that I got is somewhat standard, but again, there's a lot of different things you could do with it to kind of give yourself more options for using it. So the back of the lower receiver, you're actually able to get an option where it has a hole in the back, so you could be able to actually store stuff in the buttstock. I didn't feel like that was necessary, and I don't want to add extra weight to the gun itself, so I left that and just left it as a basic buttstock. Now, one of the downsides for me personally with the buttstock is that for me, the length of pull is a little bit too long. I would prefer if it was a little bit shorter. To my understanding, they did choose this specific length for a very specific reason. I think that probably comes down to the way it's going to be durable, and that length helps it out. I still personally for myself would prefer if it was a little bit shorter, because usually for me, I'm shooting like the position 2 of a 6-position buttstock. So for me, this was definitely longer. So luckily, this optic is the Vortex PST, and I was able to bring it back, and it has a pretty good eye relief. So it worked out well. At the same time, though, again, I still really would have preferred if it was a little bit shorter and it would have been much more comfortable to me. Now, there are these holes in the back that you might think are QD points. They are not QD points. However, you could get an attachment that will make it a QD point. So you have one on this side and you have one on the opposite side, as well as also a sling loop that I've used and have it attached over there. I'm using the Vickers sling, which is one of my favorite slings to be able to use, and I have it attached to the back. Now, this was not necessary, but I found it quite enjoyable. I added a piece of Goon Tape to the top of the lower receiver, and it was making it very comfortable for a cheek weld. It is a fully polymer lower receiver, so it's not like you have any abrasion or any annoyance with the plastic receiver. Another benefit to this, by the way, is that if you saw the Goon Tape video, polymer in general does much better in the cold than metal, obviously, because when you're holding metal, if you have your bare hands, you're touching metal, it does absorb cold a lot more, so it makes it feel a lot worse. So since it's all polymer, you don't have that kind of issue, so that's something that's nice about having a polymer lower receiver. The grip angle is really more of the A2 style grip angle. The other kind of con to this is I would have preferred if it was more vertical of an angle, not fully vertical, but a little bit more maybe like the BCM gunfighter grip as an example, just because I prefer a little bit more of a forward grip on the gun. So that's not really, again, there's nothing you can really do about it, because since the entire thing is a monolithic lower receiver, you can't change out the grip that you have, which is another reason why I added the Goon Tape to this. Is just it felt a little bit better to me than the standard of what it came with. Again, at the same time, it's really not that big of a deal. It's just more of a preference thing, and yeah, that's really what it comes down to. Obviously, I probably didn't mention already, but the fact that this is all a polymer lower receiver makes it very lightweight and very comfortable to be able to use. So one thing you're going to have to do for yourself is balance out the rifle, because since the back is going to be so light, even if you have a lightweight upper, oftentimes it might feel front heavy just because of that fact. Because the back is so light, it makes it feel unbalanced. It happens to be that was one of the reasons I was excited for this lower, is because usually having an LPVO on a gun makes it very unbalanced and makes it very heavy, and LPVOs in general are heavy, so it might not seem like something that's worth it to do. However, since this is a polymer lower receiver and I have the optic mounted somewhat centered, it actually helps with the balance of the gun, and it makes it actually very realistic to be able to use an LPVO. So that's something I was very much looking forward to and excited excited to try for the setup. Now, there's different trigger options you're able to get, and there are a few components of the KE arms lower that's not interchangeable, so you can't switch it with other parts. A few of those is like the takedown pins. The takedown pins are actually able to come fully out, so they're not retained by the gun itself. So a little bit of annoyance, but it is what it is. At the same time, though, I kind of wish there was an option of maybe somewhere to be able to store it while it was removed, because I have just a mini fear of being able to take it out and losing it, or just misplacing it and then having to reorder those specific parts just because they're not retained. They're able to fit, and they fit well in the gun. There's no issues. I haven't had any issues with it. It's just something that kind of gives me a little bit of worry. Now, going back to the trigger guard area is enhanced, so you'd be able to use it with gloves, and I had no problem using that when I was shooting at the range. And then the safety selector, again, you do have different options of ones that you're able to choose. To my understanding, you pretty much have to have one installed, and whatever you get is what you get, and you can't replace it. I've always been okay with the just standard mil-spec safety selector, so I didn't feel like I need to be able to switch that. So I'm okay with the one that came with the gun. But again, there are ambidextrous options you could choose from, and there's different styles. Just for me, the mil-spec was perfectly fine. The trigger is one of their DMR triggers, so it's a flat face trigger, and this trigger is actually very, very, very nice to shoot. It's a very crisp break. It feels very comfortable when you fire it, and it has a very solid, very short reset, and that's something that I've really enjoyed with this gun, especially having an LPVO and you're going out to a little bit further distances. It was very comfortable to be able to shoot at those distances and have a lot of confidence in the gun. Now, going to the actual Magwell, if you could tell based on the video, this is a very wide open flared Magwell. So being able to do reloads with this is a lot of fun because you really have a lot more space going into the gun itself. And the benefit again is for a lot of guns that you might need to add a flared Magwell to, it adds more weight to the gun, and it might not be usually as effective as something that's built in and really flares out nicely. So having a flared Magwell for the low receiver is actually something I really enjoyed and had a very fun time being able to reload. You could definitely get your reloads much faster with having that flared Magwell, and it's something that I kind of wish all standard AR-15 lowers should be coming out with. Now, there are kind of companies that are moving towards that, but again, coming from this company where they know kind of what you get is what you get, having that feature added is something that I feel like I really appreciate, and it's something that's very nice to be able to use on the gun. So this is kind of just a quick rundown. I want to do a full video, and I'm going to be doing a full video on the setup, but I kind of wanted to highlight the KP15 specifically because this is something that's very unique and really one of those few things that are innovative when it comes to the world of the AR-15s, and it's something that I very much enjoy. So as you guys might know, this is kind of coming along from the What Would Stoner Do rifle, which is from In Range TV. Those guys kind of came together. They're a great YouTube channel that you guys should check out, and they kind of decided what would Stoner do if he would put together an AR-15 with the technologies that we have today. So I kind of wanted to go all out while not cutting corners. So I didn't want to reduce the weight dramatically to a point that it was ridiculous. So I didn't want to get a lightened bolt carrier group or anything like that. I wanted it to be a realistic, actual battle use kind of rifle while not kind of skipping out on anything of importance. So you can see I have a sling, you can see I have an LPVO. These are all things that add weight to the gun. However, it still comes in at a lower weight than what you'd expect for a full setup like this. So I'm going to do a dedicated video on the entire setup, but I wanted in this video specifically to highlight the lower receiver of this gun because I found like that was a very interesting product to be able to check out. So if you have any questions on the lower receiver or anything you see specifically on the gun, I'm going to make another video on this setup specifically. So leave a comment below and I'll be able to make sure to answer that or talk about that specific point in the next upcoming video. This is Raziel Cohen with ndftraining.com. Thank you for watching.